Senator. Okay. So Hal ain't gonna be here.
Huh?
Hal's not gonna be, he's gonna be online.
Maybe. Maybe.
Told me you would.
Maybe. I got a maybe from him about
Oh, okay.
4:30. I was watching a hockey game and he called me. Said he may be online or he may just not be here at all.
Don Pablo, these mics are hot today. Good God. I don't want to get hung up.
Yeah.
I don't want to get hung up. Here's what it is.
It is.
All right, where's Jeff? There's Jeff.
Hey, Ryan, hit the gavel, he'll come.
Good evening. It's 7 o'clock on Tuesday, October 18th, 2022. This is King County Levy Court Committee meeting night. We're at King County Administrative Complex at 555 Bay Road, Dover, Delaware. And before I officially open the meeting, I'll turn it over to the county administrator to explain how those that would want to join us by WebEx or phone can do so. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. Yes, we're making this meeting available to guests via WebEx. And for folks who may be joining us on the internet, we ask that you keep your devices muted until such time as there's opportunity to provide public comment. We do know that Commissioner Howe is joining us via WebEx, as well as Gina Beinfeld from the Tetra Tech Group is also joining us via WebEx. And if there are other guests, if you could follow these instructions, keep your device on mute, and also if there's opportunity for public comment and you wish to address Levy Court, *3 on your mobile phone will raise an electronic hand on our dashboard and we'll be able to bring you into the room. And on the WebEx platform, if you're using a computer, laptop, or desktop, there's a raise hand icon at the bottom of the screen that you can activate, deactivate at the appropriate time. This is not a public hearing. We won't be swearing people in if they are speaking, but we will ask that you state your name and address for the record if you are joining us to provide public comment. This is a committee meeting of Levy Court, so we're following the Levy Court rules of procedure that apply to committee meetings. Mr. President, back to you.
Thank you. At this time, we will call the meeting to order. We do have six commissioners present in the room and one on the phone, so we do have a quorum. The first committee this evening is the Administration Committee, and it falls under Commissioner Angel, who's the chair. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Pettermage.
Well, the first item before us is the KEP board confirmation. Linda, would you like to join us at the table and just explain this one? Thank you.
I'm Linda Parkowski, Exec Director of the Ken Economic Partnership, and it's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. As you may recall, the KEP did a revision of their bylaws, and in that revision of the bylaws, the board composition and terms were revised. And this is allowing the Levy Court to approve the slate of board members for KEP. In the bylaw revision, Levy Court has the authority and is delegated to approve the board of directors for the Ken Economic Partnership. So this is basically a housekeeping kind of motion. And we did poll all of the board members that are current and asked them if they wanted to start their new 2-year term starting January. As you can see, some of them are delegated still by position, and then the other ones are, well, majority of them are basically at-large members. There's 2 vacancies, and You know, there will be probably a county administrator vacancy, but that's a by position. So I will come back once those vacancies are filled or nominated to get approval from Levy Court. Any questions?
Any questions? Move forth to the business meeting?
If this could be.
Yeah.
Consent agenda?
Consent agenda.
Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Howe? Six approving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I need video evidence that he's actually here.
A DE Turf ARPA grant request. Mr. Pettimaj.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, in the packet that you received over the weekend, there was a memorandum that detailed the request that was made back in September of 2021 by representatives of the Delaware Turf and for assistance related to revenue loss impacts from the pandemic shutdown. And this matter was relayed to our consultant, Tetra Tech, and Gina Beinfeld's on the line with us. I'm going to maybe turn the floor over to Gina for a brief statement. Attached to my memo is a fairly detailed memorandum from Tetra Tech that details their review of the process, the materials that were submitted, the extent of revenue loss that was incurred by the turf in 2020 and part of 21, and also beyond that, a list of all the various contracts, 60 in total, that were signed and ultimately canceled due to the shutdown situation related to the pandemic. And lastly, we have the attestation form that was signed by Angie Eliason, the executive director of DTurf, just acknowledging that all the information that was provided to the county on behalf of DTurf was true and factual and accurate. Last thing I would just like to say is that the staff at the DTurf, when this was submitted, there were several requests for additional information to substantiate the request and to provide really the background and the documentation needed for the county in the event that we're ever audited. And I just want to say that the staff did an outstanding job providing everything that was requested. There were follow-up requests, and it came through expeditiously, and as a result, we were able to be here tonight with this recommendation to basically address the request that was filed for a grant award of $1 million to provide offset to the substantial revenue loss that totaled over $2 million, which is documented in the materials that were submitted to you. And I would like to ask Gina if she would like to say anything on this particular matter. Gina? Okay, Gina, we don't hear you, but I know you're there because you texted me and said you were there, so. Okay, try it again. Mark, there must be an issue because I think Commissioner Howell also just sent me a message saying I'm not getting through.
Okay.
So okay.
So, Gina, are you there? Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go. Okay,
Oh,
we
okay.
can.
Okay. I'm guessing that she didn't hear that part. Did you hear that part where Mike started speaking, Gina?
I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm guessing.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not going to repeat all of it, but Gina, I just kind of gave him an overview of the process that we've been through with the DTurf analysis and looking at the request. And I got to a point where I was turning the floor over to you for a comment. So I don't know if you would like to say anything regarding this particular request or.
The other thing I would say is the analysis was pretty straightforward. The losses were quite catastrophic, quite significant. This is well justified. And we have a very solid backup and documentation supporting in excess of the requested $1 million allocation. So this is a very sound approval.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, back to you. You have any questions? We're happy to answer them. We also have representatives
Gina?
of DTURF here tonight as well, as you know.
I just want to bring up a couple things real quick. This is very detailed in what I've seen, and it's actually doubled what I expected. So it's been checked and verified by our consultants. This has been a long time coming, and you know, our fiduciary responsibility is to make sure we do the right thing, and it's only right because the amount of people that couldn't make it to DE Turf, think about all the money that we could get here in our state and our county. If they lost $2 million, we probably lost 3 to 4 times that much for the people coming here for all the things they would have bought and utilized services. So for me, this is one of those no-brainers that you know, you get what you pay for, and this is one of those things that I think it's going to help them get back on track. Mr. Buxton.
Sure, I wanted to put out there for consideration by the Levy Court, and I certainly support the $1 million. But as Gina described just a few minutes ago, it was a catastrophic event. It was over $2 million. There was a percentage that was an estimated number, but then it was somewhat of a fixed number, and that was the exact bookings, we'll call it, the tournaments that were lost. It totaled, I think, a little over $1.3 million. So my question to the group is, why limit it? If it's such a valuable partner, why don't we go 1.3? This may be the only time we'll ever have an opportunity to allocate this type of funds to our crown jewel. And we never know what the future holds. So this is exactly what the money's for. They've done a fantastic job of articulating the losses. I know they came in wisely and kept the number, if $1 million is reasonable, but yeah, I just think it would be a fair consideration. If we're not, I think we're prepared that we could do it actually at this time. I don't know what the allocated funds are right now for ARPA, so maybe not. If now is not the night, I would highly recommend that you revisit that extra 300,000. Compared to $1 million, it's not a lot of money, but 300 grand's not pennies, right on. So there you go.
In what you're saying, sir, I agree with, because we have tourism, we had the chamber, which we gave money to, that also is coming back to us. We haven't even discussed what we're going to do with that money. So as we go through the system, at least let's get them paid out. It's been a long time. Let's get them some money now, and then at the end, when we have extra money that's still coming back in, let's go back and revisit those issues. Commissioner Sweeney.
Mike, does any of the rules that go with the ARPA funds from the federal government preclude them from applying for additional funds later if we have money left over?
Well, this particular review was based on revenue loss during the pandemic years. That may be a question I'd like to ask the consultant to opine on, but I think if we were going to try to address a broader amount, it probably would be best to do it now, because we have all the facts before us now. Yeah. Those won't change. So, and to answer Commissioner Buxton's question, we have ample funding to cover that.
So I think I will, just before I cut up, I'm not going to offer new information. I'm just going to double back and say what I probably should have done is stop talking, because really what I wanted to say was, let's do it tonight. And if it's presented that we can't possibly do it tonight, we should reconsider it later. But let's first make a decision whether or not we want to do it tonight, which I think Mike said we could.
I'd like to do it tonight, too.
Commissioner Maston, then Commissioner
I
Hall.
agree with Commissioner Buxton. If we can do 1.3 million tonight, let's do it.
Commissioner Hall?
Sure. Couple questions. So is this the first of the nonprofits that we are distributing money to, or say for-profit operation? For-profit?
It's nonprofit.
Nonprofit. Yeah.
Okay. And so then the second, I guess, issue is, when I read it, it was almost 2.5 million. So what's the plan for the balance? If we were to award 1.3 million tonight, that still leaves us short 1.2 million for losses. So what's the plan?
I think the difference is one of them is kind of it's not a fixed, it's an estimated cost, and one's kind of more of a hard cost. So it's easier to defend. The consultant might be able to articulate that better, but I think that's the answer to that.
Gina, would you like to jump into this conversation?
Sure, yeah, I didn't want to be impolite. The 1.3 million is certainly supported in this write-up. As to what is the plan for filling the other loss, that really deturfs purview there. We did not delve into that. The request was $1 million. So we reviewed to $1 million and used their backup. So 1.3 is certainly supportable. The losses are reflected as is. This could be an action tonight, if so chosen. The documentation would support it, whether it's now or at a different point. So you all have options.
Gina, Commissioner Angel, is there a reason why 1.3 or any other number wasn't used other than 1 million in your determination?
That's what they
What
asked
they
for.
asked for.
'Cause
It was what they requested.
I'm having a
It was
hard time
really the
hearing you.
requested amount. Sorry, it was what they requested. It was their requested
Okay,
amount.
They requested.
That was the
Okay.
original letter from October of last year.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Commissioner Sweeney?
So this is strictly about D-Turf. Can we ask someone from D-Turf to step up and give us a little bit of an update?
Sure.
Because I have some questions.
Shelley?
Someone pick somebody. Thanks. So Sean and Shelley, my question would be, we're coming to the end of your season. How's this season been?
You want to speak to that?
Sure. This season's been strong. A lot of events started to come back from the 2021 time period. Had a very busy season. Angie did a great job locking in additional tournament vendors. You know, what we saw, heading into 2020 after we hired Angie, we hired her right at the beginning of 2020, and she had a lot of national contacts, and we locked in a ton of companies. I mean, that's where you can see all the verified contracts that we had. And then the pandemic hits, and obviously all of them got canceled because all the state regulations and national regulations on the pandemic. And what we found was some of the companies didn't survive into 2021. So that's why you saw the 2020 into 2021 numbers. Our biggest focus during that time period was making sure we met our bond obligations, which we did. What we weren't able to do was to put away reserve money and have operating reserves, both for field replacement and also other financial responsibilities. So that's why this for us was so important. The request for $1 million was just a conservative ask on our part. We didn't know how much money was available. We didn't want to, quote unquote, seem greedy in our request based on the size of the request, but certainly our documentation supports that. But to answer your question, I mean, we had a very good summer, a very good year. We're heading into our slower time period now, obviously December and January, and into February, our slowest points, but we had a very strong summer.
So given that, I mean, have you guys recovered, other than, do you have capital costs that now you're looking at that you
Our biggest thing-
deferred from 21 and 20?
Our biggest thing is the deferred investment into our field reserve. Each turf field is going to cost $700,000 to $800,000 to replace when the time comes. So we're trying to make sure that we're responsible and we put those funds away ahead of time. So when the time comes, we can replace the field. So that's our biggest deficit coming out of the pandemic, is being able to have extra cash sitting aside.
So as we get to the end, again, I would ask Gina, if we go even with 1.3 million tonight, does that preclude DTurf from applying later for additional funds if we have money left over and open it back up again for other nonprofits? Can they apply twice?
The write-up is, as it states, there is a deficit in excess of 1 million. So, yes, this is substantiated. There's been a full attestation provided to the estimated parking loss and concession loss. That it works. It stands.
One more comment, if I can make it. So the contract amounts, I think it was 1.34 million, the number you keep referencing. The parking number is a real number. It's based on the number of teams that are coming, and our parking revenues exceed $500,000 a year. So those are, the concessions can vary based on weather and the type of teams and sporting events there are, but the parking number is a true number.
Yeah, not intended to question the veracity, simply that the detail underneath all of these dollar amounts was we simply accepted the attestation as to the amount. So that's the basis of us stating that it's estimated.
Thanks, Gina. So my 1/8 worth of advice from this table is to accept what we give you tonight and hold on to your paperwork and be ready to come back again.
We will. Yeah. Given the opportunity, we certainly will.
You're not going to disagree, are you?
No, I'm twisting your arm to say that.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Shelley, but the one thing I was going to ask, I heard the word recovery. And during that time frame, you all had to use emergency funds just to keep things moving. So that money that was set aside was to help pay for the debt loan, if I remember correctly. Is that correct?
There were months where we weren't able to pay our bonds, and we recognized the importance that the effect that could have of not paying our bonds. And the first thing we did as soon as we got through the pandemic is we made sure we brought back and paid our bonds because we understood the implication of that. So yes, that's exactly, but by doing that, again, you saw the losses. So I just have to say how much I came here tonight. I've been here 1,000 times to sit in front of you all. And we've been doing this project from the very beginning together. And I've never been moved like I am tonight, but I appreciate your partnership so much. And I appreciate the fact that you all are willing, that you recognize the importance of this project, that you've been the partners that you have, and that you see that we are doing what we said we would do, which is bringing economic development and supporting the community like we said we would. So, Commissioner Buxton, you shocked me tonight when you made that.
That's not like you.
Not of your support. You have been a true supporter from the very beginning, but to suggest that we would get more, I'm so grateful, and for all of you to speak up and say the same thing. Your partnership has always been there, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful. So
When this went down, and several of us probably were called or talked to, when I was asked my thoughts, I said, be specific with a number that will help in defending the ask. I wasn't a big fan of $1 million. I was very much a fan of $875,025 or whatever, or 1.25 based on the numbers.
yeah.
So, I haven't lost my fiscal nature. You've earned this. You've earned it in a very negative way, but you have earned it.
I appreciate
You've earned it because of your loss, and you have earned it because of the value that you, others behind you, have presented in that organization that has given back to this county. We just really need to respect and appreciate it, and we have got to protect it. 100,000%.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
I agree, but let me just turn that around a little bit. Because how long have we been doing this? 12 years? 11 years?
It's a long time.
2009.
2009. So I can tell you 13 years ago or 14 years ago, we sat on this end thinking, oh my gosh, what happens if this thing fails in 5 years and we somehow have to pick up the bond? And to hear John say, you know, we're putting money away for the future. We paid all our bonds during that low time with money that we had saved, which is what every household should be doing, and you guys have done it. So I want to thank you guys for your management of the park, of D-Turf, the way you've done it. Because without your management and those before you and those who will come after you who have learned from you, this thing doesn't become as successful in this county as it is. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I just hope everyone feels the pride that I know that I do when I drive by that park and the parking lot is full.
Yep.
It's because of every single one of you supporting it along the way. So I hope that you feel that pride because it belongs to you as much as it belongs to everyone here in this room and our board and everyone else. So I'll stop talking and let you guys do what you need to do.
You did good. Talk anytime you want.
Any other questions? Moving forth for 1.3 million?
Sure.
So we'll just revise the motion that's before you to reflect that. And do you want it on consent, or is this
No,
an
I
action
want
item?
this on live because this is too
Okay.
important.
Yeah.
New business.
All right.
Ask a retroactive question.
Too late.
Well, so my question is, and Gina might know best, is this the first of the nonprofits that we're issuing? Because I know that we've been evaluating different requests coming in, different applications. Have we awarded any others up till now? Because there was talk about Modern Maturity Center, and they had a particular number. And I was wondering if those checks are going out or.
Got it.
I got it.
I got it.
Okay, well, and we haven't received a spreadsheet, that'd be nice, you know? So, we know where it's going, how much, you know, simple thing.
Both Modern Maturity and Easter Seals have been fully approved and checks have been prepared. We have a total of 26 intake forms, which we are working through. The deadline for the program is the 28th of this month. We are preparing good half a dozen, which will be coming through very shortly in the next week to 2 weeks of
Okay.
that list.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, if we could get a list, just so we could see the entities and how much they're receiving, that'd be great.
So Shelley, you did not have to bring Senator Bushweller's big guns with you tonight, let me tell you.
Just bringing supporters of the DE turf, that's all I'm doing.
I want to echo, because I won't be around for that. He said it better than I would, which is, it's fair to say that as commissioners, it's separate from the turf, we probably should at least know what's been approved and what hasn't. And if we missed it, then that's my fault, but I didn't know anything about that
Well,
check presentation.
Let me chime in. The grant application, very similar to the one we did with the small businesses.
Sure.
It's a fluid process, so it's first in, first complete, then first paid. So far, we've got 26 applications in that have been filed. At least they filed the intake form. 2 have been fully through the process and checks have been released. The first check was Modern Maturity, and it was hand carried by the commissioners who went to their event last Saturday night. Easter Seals is the other check that's been prepared, hasn't been delivered yet. But they'll be coming as the applicants complete their submissions and are fully vetted, reviewed by Tetra Tech. And so they'll be kind of coming out in the coming weeks on a week-by-week basis as they're completed. We don't know for sure how many of them will get through the process or will follow up completely. Some of them we're reaching back out because we haven't heard from them in a while since they submitted their initial applications. And, you know, we do have Tetra Tech come back periodically to give you, like quarterly, to give you an update, but the staff meets weekly. In fact, we met today, and we get a progress report on, you know, where they're at. I don't have a dollar amount to say, you know, here's what each one of them will get. We don't know that until they kind of complete their submission and Tetra Tech completely reviews it. Gina, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that's a very good summary. We don't have a listing of every one of these 26 with a dollar amount associated with them because we are still working through a number of them. As Mike says, we do provide a status report, and we have been actively working, communicating, you know, from phone to email to ensure that applicants are submitting what they need to, getting help where they need to, a wide range of sophistication. Some are very independent, some need a lot of support, and we are providing all levels. So we're hopeful about the 28th and getting through a number of these as approvals.
All right, thanks, Gina.
I think the difference, I assume, is that the first round, for-profits, were smaller grants specific to loss. It was a bigger number, so not really a realistic expectation. The nonprofits are unique. These are potentially large grants, big numbers, and you know, some of them, not all of them. So that's why maybe, especially like if it was in my district, I wouldn't mind a heads up.
Yeah, we can do that when they become available, as soon as they're released. The limits we put on the nonprofit grant program are as follows. For operational expenses or revenue losses, it's capped at $100,000. There is a capital component, and it's capped at $500,000. But there's also a caveat that any proposal that comes in above $500,000 will be reviewed by the subcommittee that Levy Court set up to review and then recommend back to the full Levy Court whether or not to award above the $500,000 threshold on capital projects. So there are a few of those in the mill. They're not complete yet, but those will come back to this body, and then. But we can certainly make it an effort to notify commissioners as grants checks become released. The week that the first two came out just happened to be the week that the Modern Maturity was having their big event, so the commissioners who went to that event took that check with them, and they can report on how that went.
Good.
Yes, it did.
Any other questions? The only thing I want to say is, looking back 14 years ago, when Linda and Cindy Small brought this idea forth, and I was the first commissioner they hit me with this, and I said, build it and they will come. I have to say, it came, and it's continued to go, and now that it's the fields are lit, we're going to have to start having more people come because people are going to want to play night games. You're going to be able to go further into the hours of keeping kids off the street and keeping programs running. So it's just going to get better.
Yeah.
Yep. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody here, and
We appreciate each and every one of you.
All right, that's that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I've enjoyed working with all of you. I know some of this will be the last time we sit at this table together, so thank you. There's a couple maybe. Thank you.
More compliment. It took $1.3 million for me to see her cry. I've known her for 35 years and I'm married to her sister, so that's,
I pulled it together though, but you guys moved me. You really
well.
did, and I will say like that. Again, I don't need to say anymore.
Don't cry again. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay. Consulting, ARPA consulting contract extension, Tetra Tech. Mr. Pettimage.
Thank you, Commissioner Angel. Yes, following up on the theme of ARPA, you recall that in December of 2021, we selected Tetra Tech Incorporated to be our consultant, helping us with the administration and utilization of the American Rescue Plan Act funding. And we actually signed a contract on January 25th of this year with Tetra Tech, and they've been working with us ever since. Actually, we had already started with a program with the Kent County, the Central Delaware Chamber, and with Kent County Tourism when Tetra Tech came in, and they helped us get that whole process automated and getting it properly vetted, and it was a very successful grant program. And now we're on to this one, and they've been advising us along the way. When we structured that contract, the contract came in as a time and materials contract, which means we only pay for the hours and or materials that we use with Tetra Tech and their sub-consultants. And when they proposed it, of course, they were requested to provide a contract estimate for the entire 3-year period of the ARPA funding from the time we advertised through to December 31st of 2026. And so they gave us a proposal. It has 3 years worth of time and material estimate with a total. And when we signed the contract, we did it for 1 year at a time. So we have a contract currently that will expire at the, well, actually we dated it to the date that we awarded the grant to them, or the contract to them, which was December 21st. So December 21st, 2022, the first year will expire. We have an option to renew for an additional year and an additional year after that. So we kind of did it in that way. And the reason we did it that way was we weren't sure how fast we would absorb the ARPA funding and how fast the utilization would go. And just by way of example, this time next year, you may be looking at this, whether to renew it again, and you'll have to decide at that time, have we totally exhausted ARPA already, or are we still in the process with something that we need to keep the consultant on board for? At this time, as we just talked about, we have the nonprofit grant program ongoing. The grant program that we've launched for nonprofits was based on a prioritization process that Levy Court did in April. And you may remember there were probably 10 different topics that you all prioritized. And what came out of that, the top 4 nonprofit sectors were addressed through this initial grant program. But there are other things on that list and we're going to come back to you next month to revisit the list now that the nonprofit grant program will be closing for applicants, and have you reevaluate, see if the remainder of those on the list are still valid to you. And there may be some new things that have come up since then that you want to consider. So the staff's recommendation, my recommendation, is that we continue with our engagement with Tetra Tech for another year, and provided in a memo to you a motion that would do that to extend the contract for another year through December 21st of 2023. And I'll stop there. And if you have any questions, Gina's on the line. I'm here. And Alan?
Any questions? Mr. Buxton?
As I understand the contract to be, it's as you explained it, but there's a cap on the amount that can't exceed like 1.3. And so my question is it fair to ask, we're in year 1, an audit of where we are to date? Can we see where the numbers are right now?
Yeah, I can tell you what we've billed so far, or paid out to the consultants. The year 1 estimated cost, based on prior to them getting into this process, we envisioned this maybe a little differently than it has unfolded. Mm-hmm. We jumped right into grant programs, but I think early on we thought we were going to have this fairly large community engagement and planning process. And their year 1 cost estimate was a lot higher than what we've actually billed. And Gina, you can correct me, but I believe we've billed to date $337,000 of the $1.3 million. So it's well under where we thought we would be. I think the original first-year contract or the proposal was over $700,000 to be built the first year. So we're, sitting here in October and about a little over 300,000 has been built.
So of the total money available, how much has been processed, allocated of the 35 million?
Okay, another great question, and got some information. In total, we have we've committed or allocated amounts, like for the nonprofit grant program, we put $8 million aside. At the current rate, we probably aren't going to spend all of that. Some categories, there are 4 categories, and each had $2 million in it. Some may need more, some may need less, but in net, we're probably not going to go to the $8 million. Just like the for-profit grant program did not spend all of the money that was allocated there. So when we look at it on net, we have about 17.5 that has been committed, not totally spent, but committed to projects, and basically the other half not committed at this time. So that's basically, I can give you the specific numbers, but that's roughly where we're
perfect. So the remaining 17 million, has it been targeted in the process that we've set up, or will you revisit that down the road?
Yeah, that remains to be programmed.
Wow.
Gina, am I relatively accurate on that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And has that been received? Do we have the full 35
Yes.
million so far? Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Move it forward to consent on business.
Consent? All right, thank you.
5 in favor, 1 not voting, and 1 saying no.
Okay.
I'm in favor.
Okay, 6 in
He's
favor.
back. Tell the world. Commissioner Howe is back.
Been here all along.
Okay.
Your
Next,
name on the
up
screen
is,
is Kami Howe. What is going on?
Website redesign and development.
Switching
Mr. Joe
parties?
Simmons, our IT director.
That's awesome.
As they're getting seated here, I want to say that Joe and Mark, and Mark will probably talk about this. He had a team of people working with him on the RFP for website design services, and they've done a fantastic job vetting this. And I know Mark's pretty excited to share with you what they've got to offer tonight. So, Mark, I just want to say thanks. Joe, thank you for your leadership there. This is something that's real important to the county moving forward, and I know it's been on the minds of all the commissioners about the quality of our online experience for our customers. So I think it's on the verge of getting a tremendous boost. Mark?
Yeah, thank you, Administrator. This is really, just want to make a couple of points real quick. We're going to try to go through this information as fast as possible, but also that we wanted this to be the first of a series of committee meetings that we can go through this, because I think it's very important to stress that this is the front door to the county, and there's a very lot of tentacles that this reaches out to as far as our website. This is the first thing the public sees when they look up the county or, want information about services. So as we going through this real quickly, we want to understand that there will be time for some discussion back and forth. So we're not here today for a decision. We're just here to present information and kind of get a tenement of what direction we should go in. So like Mike said, is that we had a committee that put together a great RFP. Mark was the head of that committee, and he'll take you through our findings.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, commissioners. As Joe said, I'm going to try to kind of lay a framework for the discussion that we're going to have tonight, and then just kind of, at the end, leave room for discussion, for ideas and things like that. So I'm doing like double duty tonight. So if I'm a little bit quick, we certainly will get back to your questions that may come up. Right. First, I'd like to start by acknowledging the review team that helped with this. Jason Berry from Planning, Jessica Steele from Finance, Andrew Hickson, Laura Whistler, Kelly Pitts, Joe, and myself. All right, so as Joe mentioned, right, the website's really like the county's digital front door, right? So according to the 2020 census data, 80% of Kent County is digitally enabled and engaged, means that they're doing business online, they're using mobile devices, computers, and smart TVs, right? So this is what makes our website the county's digital front door. So most likely, the first interaction a constituent will have with the county is through our website. And they'll remain engaged with us through our entire web presence. And by web presence, I mean that, it's our social media. It's not just our website. It's any text messaging campaigns that we may want to do in the future. It's search engine optimization. And it's not just what we put online, but it's also what others put online about us as well. So the point here is just that to take away is that when you take the reins of how an organization is presented online, we can influence positive interactions. So, three major challenges for local government after the pandemic, right? So there's digital transformation, talent capital, and increasing citizen engagement. So much of government is still weighed down by paper and by antiquated processes that are not efficient for staff, nor is it efficient for the citizens who is looking for that information, right? Also, finding people with the right skills to replace retiring workforce is one of the biggest problems facing local government. And then increasing citizen engagement, social media and other technological tools can help to promote community programs and, more importantly, to receive feedback. I'm sure there may be a few commissioners who remember not having a campaign with a social media account, right? So an automation can help provide that needed boost and help us to give strategies for replacing the retiring workforce. So, as a government, we're in the communication of information business, whether that's legal information, resources, health, safety, and welfare concerns. What we do is we publish information, we receive responses, we process those responses, and then it's a rinse and repeat cycle. So that makes having information easy to find very important. It also makes having a feedback tool very important so that we can improve how we disseminate information, as well as having a website as a means to connect with citizens, especially during an emergency, because some emergencies, normal channels of communication may not be able to work. So a little history of our current website. We launched it in 2013. It was designed by a staff member who just months after completing the launch left the county. And that required us to go and have to hire contract help to fix and maintain the website. Since 2013, the IT department has hired 3 staff members who currently share some portion of that workload, right? Mostly it's the technical management of the website. And the way it stands today, 40 staff members keep the website running. 4 in the IT office take care of the technical issues as mentioned, and 36 across other departments help to maintain and update the pages. Now, why we must update our website. Accessibility, availability, and usability. Under the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, agencies must give disabled employees and members of the public access to information that is comparable to the access available to others. Government organizations today are expected to provide reliable and secure web services on a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week basis. And then the usability of the website is critical because even if you have a secure website and it's up, if people can't find the information they're looking for easily, then it becomes useless. So I'm just going to ask Joe to talk a little bit about the ADA accessibility standards and the security concerns.
Well, like Mark stated, this is probably one of the top reasons that I think that we need to move forward with our new website is because being ADA compliant, there's organizations out here to actually go and audit or go looking around for websites that municipalities own and to make sure if they're ADA compliant or not. If not, either, try to bring a lawsuit or bring action against that entity because we're not in compliance. And follow up with the Act of 1973 is that when they passed the amendment, I believe in 86 was required, it's a requirement not only from federal government entities, but for also local, county government entities under 20 CFR Part 35 for non-discriminatory basis of disability in state and local government services. So we do get calls at the county periodically asking about the status of our website that it's not ADA compliant. And that is something that the county, I think there's a liability there because our website is not ADA compliant. And, there's things like, we have mobile devices now, we have cell phones that, our website does not really do well with different devices other than a standard monitor that was designed for, back in 2013. So this is one of the critical things that I think that we looked at in the driver of this, among other things.
And mainly when we say ADA compliant, meaning that our website has to help the people who are hearing and visually impaired. So for someone who may not be able to see, there's a Braille unit, and we have to put tags behind the code so that could be translated, or it could be translated, a link could be made audible for someone who may be visually impaired. So when we say ADA compliance for a website, that's mainly what we're talking about there.
Another thing I want to touch on real quick, Mark, is the availability. As you know, we went to our .gov domain now for our email system. Now, if you look at mostly every government, municipality, agency, their website also has a .gov domain. And right now, our website is still on the old co.kent.d.us. And a part of this upgrade is going to also switch that to the .domain, so we'd be fully converted over. And like you said, that would just gives us extra layer of protection because it's monitored by the CISA and the federal government for traffic. And also it just gives us a better branding because people know that our website is an official government website with the .gov domain.
So just touching on the usability, when a website is designed, there's usually an in-depth study that goes into how that information is presented, like what links appear where and why. That has never been done for our website because it was all designed in-house. So that becomes very important going forward for us to be able to not only present the information that's most relevant to the visitors to the website, but also to get the data and analytics behind that so that we can continue to optimize the website as times change, because we may present programs that may no longer be relevant and we need to take that off and be able to move forward. And then I'm going to stress this continually over and over, is that as a feedback tool. That's very, very important. If we can get feedback, we can continually improve how we reach and interact with those who visit our website. So we went through that really, really quickly. I just want to take a quick pause. If there's anything that we just covered that you want me to clarify a little bit or touch on again.
Mark, if I could just, on the ADA compliant thing, are we saying that our current website, how it's structured or programmed, it's not possible to make it compliant?
That's correct.
I thought that
Yes,
was
yeah.
an important point to make, that you couldn't do something to it.
Exactly.
Fix the problem, right?
So what drives our website is our content management system. We're going to touch on that in a little bit. And that's what allows us to maintain and update the website. The system that we're using is an open source system. That means it's free for anybody to use, but it's outdated and it's not supported anymore. So that's why we would not be able to do that. We would need to upgrade to a whole new system in order to be able to achieve that. All right, so I just want to talk about the RFP process real quick. So back in March of 2020, we were just weeks away from issuing the RFP to upgrade the website, but then COVID hit, right? So finally, in April of this year, we updated the RFP with the post-pandemic objectives we wanted to achieve, which is to enhance the online service, improve security, meet the accessibility requirements, and provide an overall better experience for visitors. So when we released the RFP, we saw 19 interested vendors. Of those 19, 6 proposals were successfully submitted. The top 3 were Andy Sites, Granicus, and Astriata. And the review team evaluated these proposals based upon the criteria we recently mentioned, which is accessibility, availability, and usability. Some of the technical criteria that we looked at in reviewing the proposals was from the back end, right? This is the programming side, the coding side, right? We looked at does it help us meet our accessibility standards legally? Does it provide us with the cybersecurity that we're looking for through cloud hosting? Does it give us the uptime assurance standard that we're looking to reach? The content management system, right? How easy is the content management system to use, and how easy would it be for staff to be trained on it? And then the search and data analytics capabilities that comes with the system. On the front end, we were looking at the design, the look and feel of the website that they were proposing. The information architecture that I spoke about recently, doing that study so that we can figure out what information is most pertinent to people visiting the site. What branding and marketing services do they bring to bear, and how easy would their system be to integrate with third-party systems like the Esri system and some other platforms like the our online service pay. And then the digital engagement features. This is the part that would help us to reach out to our constituents proactively, meaning, does it allow us to do text messaging? Does it allow us to do email campaigns? Does it allow us to take surveys, after service reviews, and those types of features? This was very important to the review team. We felt that this would help the county improve services. And then we looked at the management of the proposed system, right? What is the project timeline? How quickly can we get a new website? What kind of service and support they're going to provide us in the back end? How scalable is it? Do we have to take everything that they're offering now, or can we build as we go, right? And then how easy would it be for us to implement new features? For instance, let's say there's a sewer main repair that needs to be done, and we need to put up a whole new page on the website to inform citizens that, what's going on and where they are in the process. How quickly can we get that up and integrated to the website? And then finally, the costs and the talent resources that's required to operate the system.
Mark, you say surveys?
Surveys, yes.
What do you mean by survey? Like if I get done interacting with the county, I fill out a survey?
Yes, exactly. So, and it could be something as simple as like what you may experience, like if you go to Walmart, right? So you check out and it says, oh, rate this experience you just had, right?
I'm in favor. Let's go.
Yeah, and then a main piece of that is forms. Forms is a big part of digital engagement. Can we get forms and get forms filled out, completed, returned, and create a communication cycle that tracks, okay, why was this form completed? Did it get to the right person? Did it get done? Was there any kind of follow-up? And then that's how you can tie in surveys with that as well. So I'm just going to briefly go through the proposals, the top 3 proposals.
Before I go any further, the interesting thing to note is that creates a portfolio where probably 95, maybe even more % of the times it's positive feedback coming into the county on the outstanding service.
Right.
That's why we got to start looking at that.
Yeah,
We are.
awesome. So Andy Sites, right? So Andy Sites proposed a custom designed website. Basically what that means is they'll build it, they'll turn over the keys to us, right? We'll own the code and the design, right? The content management system that they're recommending is a WordPress, which is also a free open source content management system. The cloud hosting they recommend is SiteGround, which is what I would consider a next best in class security level, and that comes with an annual subscription. So just to touch on that, you can see me talk about best in class and next best in class. So if you imagine security as an apartment building, right? So every apartment building, they'll probably have a key code, they'll probably have a key, and that keeps people who shouldn't be in the building out. And some have a security guard as well. So a next best in class would be apartment building that has a security guard. And then there's some that has only a specific type of tenants in the building. And that's the best in class. So when you hear me talk about best in class and next best in class, that's kind of like what I'm talking about. So it's still secure, but just so that you understand the level of security. And as far as ADA accessibility standards, there's a level AA, which is the highest level. And these would come with apps, considered like an application that would be on the website that would check for ADA accessibility and prompt you to make any corrections and tags for the information that you post on the website so that the site remains ADA compliant. And then as far as digital engagement features, they offer 20 forms that's included. However, the text, emails, chatbots, social media feeds, and surveys those would be added at an extra cost. Granicus. Granicus is what I would consider a semi-custom design website, meaning that we would own the design and not the code, because we would be subscribing to their platform. So all the code is proprietary. We would never be able to take that code with us. So the content management system is also proprietary, and that is included in the annual subscription, as well as the cloud hosting, right? And the cloud hosting is what I would consider, again, the best in class. They recommend hosting on the Azure government cloud, which is where their platform resides. So only government entities will reside on that platform. So we'll not only have the .gov security, but we'll also be on a government cloud. And the ADA accessibility standards, again, there is level AA. And the digital engagement is where Granicus really excelled. They offer up to 100 forms, the SMX text listings, email listings, chatbots, social media feeds, surveys, all of that's included in the annual subscription. And then Astriata. So Astriata, like Andy Sites, is a what I would call a boutique firm. They're about 10 employees, and they will, again, do a custom designed website for us where they will build it and then they'll kind of turn over the key. Granicus is a much bigger outfit. I wouldn't say that they're a global company, but they're an international company. And they only deal with municipalities and cities and local government. Astriata and Andy Sites, they do have clients in the public sector, so we do feel that either of those designs would be suitable for us as well. The cloud hosting that they recommend is on the Azure cloud, which is also a best in class, but there's a separate annual subscription that's required for that. The content management system they recommend is Sitefinity, which is also an annual subscription for that. The ADA accessibility standard is level AA. The digital engagement features that they offer are 20 forms and social media feeds, but like Andy Sites, the text, email, chatbots, and surveys would be added at cost. So the top two proposals and why. So Granicus stood out as the top proposal because of the digital engagement. That comes standard. That's their bread and butter. That's what that's the value proposition that they bring to the table. Their experience in the government web space is very high. You know, they serve 40 of the 50 most populous cities with web services. They offer best-in-class security, high accessibility standards, and the scalability. So I just want to talk a little bit about Granicus in that they not only offer just a website, but they offer other modules that can be added to the website or can be added to other websites. So agenda management, they offer a module that will help to streamline the agenda workflow from all the staff members that go into creating an agenda. That can be done in real time with approvals and permissions. Also, FOIA management. Kelly gets FOIA requests all the time that needs to meet certain requirements. They offer a module that will help us to both track and maintain fulfilling those FOIA requests. Customer relations management module they offer, an intranet, and we felt that their analytics was the most robust out of all the proposals. The implementation timeline, they recommended is about 6 to 8 months, which we felt was fair and reasonable for a website of a county our size. The agility of the platform to roll out new features, is exceptional because this is what they do. And they are able to draw on the experience of other local governments for whatever rollout, new feature that we may need, right? So chances are one of their other customers have rolled out a similar feature that we may want to roll out at some point, and we can draw upon that experience. And then the advanced level support that comes as part of the subscription. They'll assign 8 team members to the account, and each one of these team members have expertise in a particular area. So if it's integrating with a third party, there's an expert on the team for that. If it's a digital engagement feature, there's an expert for that. So we really felt that the support level was exceptional. Now, Andy Sites scored really high because obviously they were the lowest cost proposal, but it was a custom solution, meaning that it was portable, right? So once they hand the keys over to us, they're going to build a website that will get our head above the water, right? And then we can then scale up and build out the website as needed. The implementation timeline that they recommend is also 6 to 8 months. They offer a base level support, and that's reflected in their support contract numbers. And base level means that they'll monitor the site to make sure that it's working. They'll monitor the site to make sure that nothing breaks. If something breaks, they'll fix it and get it operating the way it should. They'll implement patches and upgrades as needed. And what the team liked as a whole is that their solution allows us to pay as we build. So we can get to a base level and then grow the website as needed. So at this point, what I would like to do is show a video. But before we start that, I just wanted to was there anything that I mentioned so far that was unclear that you would like me to?
Mark, so in the 2 proposals that you mentioned were the top 2. With Granicus, you mentioned how many municipalities and governments that they've supported. Yeah. But in the others, you just said they have experience.
Right.
Did they offer any testimonials from those that they work with, or did we reach out to any of them to see what kind of support they offer?
Yes. So every proposal we received, they gave us references, but of all 6 proposals, there were 2 that's what they did, was municipalities. So just wanted to put that in context as with regards to a boutique firm who builds websites versus a Granicus who builds websites only for municipal governments. So just so. What I'd like to stress there is that no member on the team we didn't feel that Andy Sites couldn't build a good website for us. All right. So.
Any other questions? Commissioner Hall.
And so you've down selected the 2, both are compatible with our ERP initiative.
So let me speak on that. So both of them are hosted in a cloud environment. And if we had to have any kind of integration, I'm pretty sure we can do that because they'll both be in the same platform far as either on Azure or in a host environment where we can make connections to it. Now, there's no specific plugins that are specific to our Tyler Tech implementation because let's say, for instance, Tyler Tech has employee self-service, vendor self-service that are websites in our own. Now, we can have links to our websites or tie them into pages on our websites, but there's no dedicated integration between our website and our Tyler Tech ERP.
Well, because one of my concerns is financials. So if we have residents who want to pay their tax bill through a website, so now we need the website to talk to our financial systems.
Correct.
And that's all,
Correct. And that integration is like I said, there can be integration between Tyler Tech and our website, and that's what we do today. So that will be, we would definitely have that part of requirements when we go to the design phase, that they can pull information from our Tyler Tech self-service site into our website and our bill payment. That's what we do today.
okay. And then for ADA accessibility, so you have 36 people that can go create content today. So in terms of ADA accessibility and creating tags, is that scripted and automated? Or do we need staff to understand how to go in and create ADA accessible or accessibility features for every piece of content that we load?
That's built into the program. So what they're saying is that, say if you create a link, you put a link into a website. What that does is that it automatically goes and build what's called alternate text. So if you can't read that link, it can maybe show a picture that's a link, or it can have code in there to be able to send information to a Braille machine. So, or it can have a little plugin down the bottom that's saying that it can enlarge the font because, if you're, impaired as far as is your site. So that stuff is baked into the code. Our staff wouldn't have to do anything as far as making their content ADA compatible. The program will make it ADA compatible.
Yeah. And just to touch on that a little bit, there is some human interaction that needs to come into that process. Right. And so what the program will do is where it gets a little dicey, it will make recommendations. Okay. And it will prompt you, whoever is adding the content to make the recommendation. So there is somewhat of a learning curve, and that speaks to the level of training that would be required so that staff can learn how to navigate those waters.
Okay. And the last question I have is, so Section 508, we're 50 years behind on that. So are there any federal dollars available? Because eventually, I think we'll see a price tag. Are there any federal grants available to help us offset transitioning to full compliance?
Okay. Not that I know of. There is definitely what they do offer in the federal government as far as guidance, rules and guidelines, best practices, but I'm not aware of any kind of particular grant money that would suffice for just making our AD compliant. Now, I can offer things that we should investigate is that, I know there's potentially money out there that federal government is more concerned about and grants are more concerned about is getting our website to the .gov domain, because that's something that is high on the list as far as cybersecurity. That may be something that we can look into, but not specifically for ADA compliance.
Thanks.
Joe, did I hear you say that this system will be integrated with our new system we're putting in place? That it can be utilized the same?
It will be links in far as links into our tax and SOAR payment, and that's the same thing we have today. If you go to our site, we have a page for tax payment, and you hit the link and you put your tax payment number there, and that takes you to our payment site. And the same thing, we can build the requirements in here is that you put your account number into our site, and it will take you to the Tyler Tech self-service site. So we're doing the same exact thing, just with different systems. So instead of having a third-party payment system that we send on our website to, it'll be sending off to the Tyler Tech self-service site.
And then also, Mr. Buxton had mentioned customer service, which you and I and Laura and Mr. Pettermage we had trying to get something set up, but because of the cost, it's prohibitable. So this is something that can be added to our system then to make it
Yes.
costly to us?
Right now, our website is basically a display board, like a billboard. So there's no two-way interaction. Okay, so our website design was to display information, have links and go from different departments. But there's no really, if you're familiar with the new modern websites, the chat boxes, the surveys, the uploadable forms that you can just fill out things online and send it instead of having to print out a form and fill it out and send it in or come into the county. So like Mark was saying, that customer engagement is really today one way. We post information, we post notices, and that's it. But modern websites, there's a give and take. I foresee on a website that you go in there and you can potentially, sign up with your email address for notification for Levy Court meetings, put it on your calendar. Or you can get text for, upcoming events. So we can kind of more constituent engagement than our current website.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Thanks, sir. So, Joe and Mark, first of all, the links can be built across the board to any system that we currently have and that we've expended a lot of money in, like our MyGov initiative, which is for all of the permitting and stuff and planning. Those links will be added, no additional costs. We just put those links in.
Correct. They'll be part of the design process to put those links in.
So the chat now feature and the two-way communication with somebody, I'm getting ready to pay my taxes and I disagree with my taxes. I can hit the chat now, or we're gonna have to hire more employees to be available to be online, maybe after hours, in order to chat with people who are sitting at home at 8 o'clock at night trying to pay their taxes.
Well, what I would mention is, even before we get there, is to understand how that works, because with Granicus, it would work different than with an Andy Sites build. So that level of detail, we don't have that level of detail yet because we haven't figured out, exactly.
Because I'm thinking that up until a month ago, I would have recommended commissioner or county administrator to take all those calls because he's here till 9 o'clock anyway.
That's right.
I think does take
But just let me expand on it a little bit. I mean, there's possibilities that even if somebody's sitting home at 8, 9 o'clock at night, if they send off a text or a chat box, that we can gather information. It can be automated replies saying, our business normal operating hours are here from 8 to 5 or 8 to whatever, and then we got your request, and somebody in the morning can come in and first thing look at that and says, okay, I need to follow up with, John Smith because he has a tax problem. And, we can shoot him off an automated email saying, okay, this is your inquiry number, or we will follow up with you the next day. Right now, we don't even have that.
Right.
So right now, if you have a problem tonight on your tax bill, you just wait till tomorrow morning and call. So, and when your staff comes in tomorrow morning, if you catch them in tomorrow morning, but this will be tracked as saying that they submitted an inquiry at 8 o'clock at night, and we follow up with them, let's say 9:15 or 9 o'clock the next morning, and we can track that. And again, more feedback, because we can feed that back to the system and have dashboard reporting and such down the road.
Yeah, it's important to emphasize that the chat bot is not it's not someone actually there receiving its information. It's all automated. It's
Well, you've got both of them. You've got the ones that are interactive that are all chat bots, not actual chat person.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yep. So the review team thought the two videos I'm going to show you, even though it's prepared and by Granicus, it really represents what we had as a vision for the website going forward. And even though it's Granicus product that's being talked about here, we believe it can be achieved with both Granicus and Andy Sites being the top two proposals. However, how you get there will be different.
So before you show these, are you asking the 7 of us to pick which one you want to go with, or do you have a recommendation?
Well, we have a recommendation in terms of, the evaluation team. There's number one and there's number two. So what we want to do is open up that discussion for you, getting ideas from you, and then move forward. But as far as the evaluation team, we picked the number one.
So clearly, the question is, do you want to spend 30,000 above cost or whatever it is, 40,000, and then 50,000 a year for the best product?
Right.
And I think it's worth the spending because that's your interaction with the community. But I won't be here to pay for it, so you guys make that call.
You can offer frivolous with our money.
Just go over to Lake Hall and get
Hear
it.
you say that when D. Turf was here.
I'll be on the bond, that's all right.
But one of my concerns is, like, I'm seeing 5 different buckets here. I'm seeing design, options, hosting, maintenance, and then internal staff. Are we gonna have to plus up?
Yeah.
In order to, so, because some of this we may have to take on ourselves, or some of this we're gonna defer through contract. So that's, I'm sitting here waiting, I mean, I'll watch the video.
Sure. So let's, what I would do is, at this point, is I'm gonna skip the video for now, and I'm gonna go to basically our recap page, because that's really what we're talking about. So in 2013, when we upgraded our website, it cost the county nothing, right? It was done in-house by a IT staff member in addition to their regular duties, right? So that was a bonus for the county, and estimated at the time, it saved the county about $50,000, right? Currently, there's no line item costs for annual maintenance. So it's an open source system, CMS, that we use that is outdated. So we're not paying any fees for it. It's maintained as part of various staff members' added responsibilities, right? So if I'm using basic conservative calculations, estimating about $99,000 a year in staff hours. Just estimating, ballparking. It's never been done. No, we've not really quantified it, but just putting together maybe 40 staff members contributing maybe 2 hours a month and somewhere around $24 an hour. So that's kind of like ballparking the estimation, right? The pre-pandemic budget for this project was $60,000. Since COVID, things have changed. And if you notice, even the lowest cost proposal, $70,000, is above what was projected prior, as an estimate for this prior to the pandemic. So in a nutshell, the county size, and now that we're, at this end of the pandemic, the expectations are that a county our size would now have to commit to some type of capital and talent resources that was previously unrequired, just because of the size that we've grown to, almost 200,000. We looked at, similar costs of counties our size and what they're paying, both on a maintenance basis and what they're paying for a website upgrade. So that's kind of like what we're looking at right now, and if you compare that to the proposals that Granicus and Andy Seitz have presented. So to your point, Commissioner Hall, we would anticipate that there would need to be a digital administrator for 2 reasons. One, to really understand and manage the website going forward, and also to help cut down on the amount of staff that's actually contributing to it. Maybe we could potentially bring that down to 20 staff members who was contributing a few hours. I wouldn't say that there would be none, just because there's data that's going to be on the sites that resides in the expertise of various departments that, no one central person would be able to have that information.
And would they be the project manager?
I would think at this, on this side of the project, yeah, they would be the project manager to kind of take it, to project completion and then going forward in rolling out of various projects and growing it.
So Mark, on a digital website, whatever we decide to do, it will still be ours, but we wouldn't own it still, right? We wouldn't be able to do anything, could it be, or is it ours? Because isn't that one of the problems? Somebody came in and did our website for us, and then they left us, and we kind of had to go back and find somebody to fix the website to move forth when we did it in 2000, whatever.
Well, it was a staff member who coded it for us and
But he
designed
left.
it. Right, but he left, right?
And nobody could fix it because they didn't know how to get in to do things.
That's correct. And so over time, we've added staff members in the IT department and divvied up the responsibilities with their, their coding expertise. So we're maintaining what we have right now, but it was still at a cost, even though it wasn't a direct cost. Now, I had mentioned before, between Granicus and Andy Sites, it's how you get there is a little bit different. So with Andy Sites, we still believe that you would have to have like a web/digital administrator because it's a customized website where we'll own the key. So that person would have to be a little bit more technical with an Andy Sites proposal than with Granicus. That's kind of like the major difference I see between the two of them. And it's just a flair and appetite for, how fast do you get there? How efficiently, how quickly do you get there? Or do you want to, kind of build it on your own, or do you want to utilize the resources of other governments that, a company like Granicus can bring to bear, to our web services? So with that, today I just wanted to paint that framework for you. Our intention was not to get a particular approval tonight, but if the feeling is strong enough, we can certainly move forward. The review team would definitely be appreciative about that. They're really excited about what the potential future for our web services can be in providing services to the constituents of the county.
So Joe, you said this is one of the meetings we're going to have. What's the next one?
I think the next one, obviously take all the information you got tonight. It's a lot of information. We understood that. We know it was going to be, cramming everything in. To take that as a group and decide, what do we want the website to be?
So that's the one we're going to be selecting then to go to?
Correct. So what obviously more questions. If we can, if you have questions, you can email us or give it to us, and we'll be able to present specifics to certain questions that we didn't answer tonight. And then, I hear a lot about, as IT director, I hear a lot about our website being out of date, but then, where do we want to go? If we really truly want to use this as a tool, interaction tool with our constituents and, the residents of King County, and also provide services and also feedback in multiple different areas, or do we want it to be what we have today, obviously bringing up the compliance, make it more modern, and build it as we go along. It's going to be, when you come up with something, a survey, we can add that. Or do you want to go all in and have a tool that Mark said is that you're buying into a service that other municipalities that already offer their constituents either, surveys, chat boxes, stuff already have day one. And, I think that's the direction that, we need from you guys a way to go. Obviously, the top choice was Granicus. We wouldn't have selected a second choice. We didn't feel comfortable that if that wasn't meeting our minimum needs. But this is something, in my opinion, and I'm being real frank, is that, it affects everybody. And like you said, the first thing, you know, our website goes down, and y'all hear it before we do. You know, trust me. I mean, you know, Mike calls me, or a commissioner calls Mike if we have a problem on our website. You know, I hear about it. I'm the third person to hear about it. You know, and Levy Court is out there, you know, meeting the public, meeting the constituents, know their needs, and this is the direct reflection upon the county. So that's why we wanted to take our time, have multiple people come up with a plan and insight, and that was time that we didn't want this to be a quick decision or kind of like have, because we could have came in here with one, this, you know, granted this is our top choice, but we wanted to have a dialogue and feedback for us what direction you want us to go. We'll go with either way you want us to go, but we just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Better much? Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to, and it's been already stated, but, you know, over the course of several years, we looked at platforms to provide feedback loops from our citizens. And, you know, some of the more substantial ones came with fairly steep costs, and they did a lot more than we actually really needed, but, you know, they were kind of base minimums that you had to invest in. The solutions that are before you here are going to address that and create those feedback loops that particularly Commissioner Buxton has sought for several years now. And I think that'll be a significant advancement for people to be able to participate in the government, provide feedback to us instantaneously and on the fly. The other thing I just wanted to point out, the far left item, which is the current scenario, which was very low cost. It's kind of serendipity that, you know, it was designed, as Mark said, by an in-house person who was, you know, knew what he was designing and programmed it and wrote the code and everything, and then left. And then when we had a problem, no one else knew how to fix it. But the serendipity part is that's how we found Joe. We found Joe through a job shop, and he came in at nights, working for us part-time, and basically tore the code apart and figured it out. And, you know, we've been going along with it ever since. And, of course, then we were able to bring Joe on, and the rest is history. Now he's the director. So, interesting turn of events. We went with the low-cost option. We ended up with a director.
I don't know if it was serendipitous. I don't know if it was serendipitous, but it was fortuitous.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
It's hard to follow that, but my bad. So I appreciate it. There's a lot of work and analysis going into this. I think, just speaking for myself, so the next time we meet, the things that I would want to see is, so for Granicus, it talked about modules that could support different functionality, CRM, FOIA. So I think it would be helpful for us to see a cost benefit. You know, do we need a FOIA module? What I think that's a yes from the back of the room. Right, but so for everything that every option that they offer, how much does it cost upfront and for follow-on? And it looks like a big yes on that. And then, so in either scenario, we're hiring somebody, right? And so I'm going to guess that this isn't low talent. We want somebody that can manage this. So what's that cost? It's October. We won't have a budget meeting until next spring. We won't make a hire until July. So in terms of timing, got to hire somebody, bring them on, bring them up to speed. So I'd like to, you know, what's that timeline look like? And how much have we set aside so far? And how much more do we have to go, you know, in out-year budgets here? And along that line is, with each of these, what's the support tail look like? What's the annual? In addition to having somebody on staff to help us, you know, who's on the clock, on the payroll doing this, what's the annual out-year cost of the, you know, just baseline functionality and any options that we'd want to see?
So when you say,
No, go ahead, Mark, if you.
I'm saying, just to follow up, you said when you say the out year cost, you want year 2, 3, 4, 5 as,
Yeah, so we design it, we build it, it's up, it's running. And then the second year we owe them, and then the third year we owe them, and the fourth, because we're,
Gotcha.
you know, for hosting, for
right.
Yeah.
support, stuff like that.
So the question, I guess, is do you want varsity or do you want JV? And obviously, we want the varsity, but we need to make sure we have the right numbers to set aside. I don't need detail, really. It's 112 to buy it. It's 51 to drive it. But you're saying there's, forget the added administrator, but other than the added administrator, there are potential other costs associated with it that are unknown?
Right, so the only thing that would be unknown at this point is, let's say we add a FOIA module.
All right.
Right, so that's where the additional cost would come in. But as far as base website, the numbers that are presented are accurate.
Same would hold true if we hired, because we're going to do one or the other. So if we did Andy sites, doesn't matter. If we added, we would add costs to the Andy site also. So, okay. Yeah, again, I just think that it's such an important model. I actually did a FOIA for DelDOT today, and it was that simple. Yeah, I just clicked on the link. I tried it out. I mean, I asked for some information there. You got to FOIA that. Really? Okay. So I clicked on it, and really just was one sentence. It was relatively simple. We'll see. But I would encourage, right? You don't have to figure it out tonight, but I know Ms. Kiefer in planning, they've done a nice job at times of utilizing current personnel and combining a position and then eliminating a position. And I know, I thought, I could be putting words in your mouth, but, or some people's mouths, when we went through the Tyler deal, that there was concern in the office that it was going to diminish their work productivity, or so maybe there is opportunity to look within to morph and move. I don't know, but that's just a thought. So,
Mr. Sweeney.
I just want to, when you come back, I'm interested in their internal security that requires our staff to log into the system when they make updates. And number one, are those updates approved before they're posted to the public? Number two, is everything logged? So in case someone jumps on the last minute before they leave the county for good and posts something that's really negative, can it be blocked, or is it logged for legal purposes later?
Any other questions?
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And just like I said, if you think of any other questions between now and then, email myself or Mark. But like I said, I know it was a lot of stuff. So.
Any public comments on these 4 items? Any public comments on these 4 items?
Do we have anyone on WebEx?
President, back to you.
Mr. Chairman. Do we have anyone on WebEx that wishes to address Levy Court on this, these items that were before the administration committee? Feel free to raise your electronic hand.
Yeah.
what's the weather like?
Cold.
But not raining.
No public comments at this time.
Okay,
Thank
back to
you.
you, Mr. President Pepper.
All right, next item on the agenda is Community Services Committee. Commissioner Sweeney's chair. Turn it over to you, sir.
Thanks, sir. Joining us tonight is Jeff Brown, the Recruitment and Retention Coordinator for Kent County Volunteer Firefighter Association. He also has with him some members from AmeriCorps. We're going to bring up a couple chairs for them to join us at the table.
You are?
Yeah, there's 3 of them at least. So if you remember back in April of last year, AmeriCorps, or Bourne Jones at the time, came to us for an ask to help them with recruitment for volunteer firefighters, and especially Kent County. And Mr. Jones was asked for some specific information and did not come back with us with that information. I think Mr. Brown has that information. So he is going to talk to us. I'm going to turn the floor over to him. We're also going to see a presentation from the AmeriCorps. So Mr. Brown, I'm going to turn it over to you if you want to introduce everybody, and then the floor is yours, sir.
All right, first off, I'd like to say it's nice to see you guys again. I'm wearing a different hat in a different capacity.
Still asking for money.
I am going out as the president for the county chiefs, so you'll be blessed with Chief Joey Marker from Lipsick. I'm coming to you as a employee with the Delaware State Fire School, and I have been assigned the coordinator for recruitment and retention for the state of Delaware. Once we got the grant for the AmeriCorps program, I've been working with Marcella Miller. She is my program coordinator that is pretty much my savior and teacher in this, trying to get the process down pat. Newcastle and Sussex have already bought into it way before. So now we're going to come to you to see if you can give us some assistance, and I will turn it over to Marcella.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Marcella Miller. So as Jeff said, I work for the State Office of Volunteerism, more specifically AmeriCorps Delaware. Here with me is Cheryl Hilldyer, who is also a program officer, and John Sullivan, who is our AmeriCorps program director. So any questions that you have, we'll all try to field and answer, but I'll be brief with speaking on AmeriCorps and how this will help. The bit of funding that we'll receive will help with the AmeriCorps grant and match what the Delaware State Fire School will be getting. So first, I've really just highlighted some statistics in Delaware. So this highlights national service and the importance of volunteerism within our state. Last year, more than 243,000 Delaware residents volunteered. So that's so many Delawareans. Their service has an estimated economic value of more than $589 million. That just shows really how much we're saving by using volunteers and programs like AmeriCorps, because it gives back to our community and really meets the local needs that we need to fulfill and we can't do with many salaried positions. So next, I really wanted to highlight how this AmeriCorps program came about. In 2019, a task force was created to address the need for the recruitment and retention efforts with the Delaware State Fire School and the Volunteer Fire Association in general. So with that, the task force was comprised of state representatives, the Board of Education, our State Office of Volunteerism, along with the Delaware Volunteer Firefighters Association. So that task force, we had our prior supervisor was on that task force, and the AmeriCorps program came up to really boost volunteerism, to boost recruitment efforts for the fire companies, because really they need that awareness. They need the help. So one of the solutions was the AmeriCorps program, so that we can help with the recruitment. Sorry, I'm being repetitive. So I just wanted to go over some history of our office with the Volunteer Firefighter Association. Back in 2004, we actually had an AmeriCorps program, and it was very successful. It was called the Emergency Services Corps, and they were successful in putting 170 individuals with 17 volunteer fire companies through 2004 to 2013. So this already shows how the implementation of an AmeriCorps program was successful in our state. So to tell you a little bit about the federal agency, so AmeriCorps is the Federal Agency for National Service and Volunteerism. AmeriCorps really provides opportunities for Americans of all backgrounds to serve their country. It addresses the nation's most pressing needs, improves lives and communities, and strengthens civic engagement. Above that, AmeriCorps members receive not an hourly wage or a salary, but just a modest living allowance for their service. They're provided with extensive training and professional development, and after service, they'll receive an education award from AmeriCorps. So this is professional training and development is really beneficial to them. They're not getting paid much, as you'll see when we go over their living allowance. I've also highlighted national service in Delaware. So these are the AmeriCorps statistics for 2021. We had over 100 local service sites in Delaware that hosted over 1,300 AmeriCorps members. That funding came from AmeriCorps, which was $6.4 million. So AmeriCorps granted that funding so that members could serve throughout the state in different capacities. So that might be the education sector, disaster services, Healthy Futures. They help out a lot of nonprofits, churches, and state services in our community. Overall, 12.6 million AmeriCorps scholarships were earned along with that in 2021, since 1994, excuse me. So next you'll see our plan for the Delaware Fire Service Corps, which is what we're going to call the AmeriCorps program that the State Fire School will be carrying out. So we propose to have 23 members who will be participating in recruiting volunteer firefighters and assisting the volunteer fire companies by doing public information support for those companies. The AmeriCorps members will be responsible for conducting recruitment events in local communities as well as county-wide or statewide events to increase the number of volunteer firefighters. They'll be working with the school systems in Delaware as well to really spread awareness, maybe connect with trade schools, vocational schools, so that they can boost the awareness for the need for volunteer firefighters. So we're also hoping that with this AmeriCorps program, we can train the members to expand the GEMS program, which is a junior cadet program that Sussex County started to teach 10 to 14-year-olds about, volunteer firefighters and their service. And that really helped with sparking the light in the young ones, like who the future of the volunteer firefighters, for them to eventually graduate and then give back and join, their peers to be firefighters. And Jeff could probably speak more on that. So next I have the Kent County contribution. So the total AmeriCorps investment, the grant that they received, is $338,100. So with this grant, AmeriCorps does require that a 24% match be committed, which is $104,723. We will be splitting that up between the 3 counties. And you'll see the county supports listed below. So Kent County is proposing $22,133 to assist with, and you see Sussex and Newcastle listed as well for $25,295. What you don't see calculated in here is the personnel position for running this AmeriCorps program, which is Jeff. So he'll be handling all of that. With all the members, with all the fire stations across the state, he will be doing a lot and will have his hands full. So as you can see, Kent County is proposed to have 7 members, and Sussex and Newcastle will have 8 members each across their volunteer fire stations.
So, Ms. Miller, who does this target?
So the members are going to be the people who are carrying out the recruitment services. So this targets high schoolers. It targets like community members, anybody who's been interested in volunteering for, to be a firefighter, but maybe can't make the ends meet because it's volunteer, they're not paid. So having this grant really helps the Delaware State Fire School because they can pay people a small wage, a small, living allowance so that they can then join the force. They learn more about it. They tell their friends, they tell their family and other community members, and it just keeps cycling.
Right. The reason I ask, it was last year, but there was a fire call that went out of Magnolia at about 6 o'clock at night, and 3 trucks went out. The youngest person on those 3 trucks was 62 years old.
Wow.
So to target younger students or younger kids, or adults, is important in order to get that generational support for continuity, as they start to reach into those 60. So does the 22,000, is that 22,000 from Kent County per year over the next 3 years?
So this is for this year. So what they would do if they wanted to do another operational grant and continue this, it could be a different match next year. I don't see it increasing significantly, but this would just be for this year to help match the grant that they're receiving from fall until August.
Okay. Commissioner Hall?
Is there any history or have we had any success reaching out to fire response at Dover Air Force Base or the Air National Guard, with people retiring, their skill sets?
No, but I can say I've been talking back and forth with the city of Wilmington. They are the only, other than Dover Air Force Base, paid department in the state of Delaware. They are having problems with trying to get new recruits. Honestly, it's not just really a volunteer thing. There's some departments out there that can't pay somebody to staff an ambulance to provide BLS care. So trying to come up with new members anyway, whether it's working in the back, like say ladies auxiliary stuff, doing fundraisers, older members, or the younger ones to get the trucks out on the street. Anything and everything that we're going to possibly try to do, we're going to do. a big thing that we're going to try to push. We're going to try to get career paths in schools. The target schools are three of them, one of them being one that I went to, Polytech High School, trying to make a career path. But what a lot of people don't realize, if you do a career path with the fire department, you can get paid pretty much all around us and in the city of Wilmington. Also, volunteering opens up plenty of doors. Working for you guys, Department of Public Safety 911 Center, 3/4 of the employees in there became dispatchers because of working or being around the fire department. So open up the different doors for job opportunities, whether it be DEMA, Delaware State Fire School, state police, corrections. I mean, just the list goes on. So those are the big target areas we're going to try to push. But having these AmeriCorps members come, especially during the daytime for the guys that work during the day, these individuals can go out to the schools for career days, or out in the public areas, town halls, meetings, and try to recruit new members. And while they're doing their time, which is 1,200 hours, they could up their websites. They can send out flyers. They can help do fund drive. They can even be trained to ride our trucks, which is a big asset during the day. Yes, ma'am.
Jeff, question. What will the AmeriCorps do differently when they go out to the schools? That I can speak for Smyrna and Clayton, because that's my area and I'm active. But when the Smyrna volunteers or Clayton volunteers go out to Smyrna High School to try to recruit these younger children to try to get into the fire service, and I know Clayton has got a good cadet program. They have maybe 4 right now. What will AmeriCorps be able to do differently than what maybe a volunteer who's already active in the fire service do? What's going to be different about that program?
So it's not really going to be different. They're just going to be an extra set of hands, and they're going to have the dedicated time that they can put towards it. To where, like me, I might be able to do a couple hours after work, to where when they walk in the building, that's their number one priority at all times. They're not necessarily saying that they're going to be able to ride an ambulance or fire truck. That all depends on the site supervisor that they get, or station they get assigned to. But having these individuals in the firehouse is dedicated time. So that's 1,200 hours of dedicated time working to try to recruit new members versus trying to balance all the other things: fire suppression, community outreach events, fire prevention, fundraisers, and all the other stuff above.
But when you talk about having a career path at school, how successful have you been with some of the school districts or the Department of Education to get that push forward?
So we had a meeting with the Secretary of Education. We didn't think it was going to be a long meeting, but we ended up having almost an hour-and-a-half meeting with him. They weren't aware of the salary that could be with it. I have 12 career guys that work for me in my department of Camden that are firefighter EMTs, and you can make up to an excess of $60,000 a year doing this job. So the idea of doing the career pass is, one, trying to maintain and keep them into the state, being a paid firefighter EMT, because if you see an ambulance riding down the road, it's got paid staff on it. There's a chance you might get a volunteer on it, but it's paid staff getting the ambulances out in the state. So trying to get them engaged early, get them hooked, let them know that there's a retirement plan. Some stations have 401k. My station has a 20-year pension. There's a whole other list of pluses that come with working for a volunteer fire department, or like I said, the avenues outside DC, Fairfax County, Anne Arundel County, Annapolis. I mean, the job opportunities are out there.
Because when John Pridemore was alive, he talked to me about this, and so Joey Marker, that there is history with surrounding companies that have done this as part of career paths and been very successful because the salaries are very high. Obviously, here it might be an issue, but at least that's a starting point for somebody who's already got the wheels in motion and know it works.
And they were very on board for it. Their biggest concern was transportation for students.
Yeah.
Obviously, for Sussex Tech, Polytech, and St. George's, that's already established. Just trying to get those wheels turning to get that ball in motion. The first step they want us to go with to put in their school districts across the state is a GEMS program. GEMS program started with a couple members from a couple South Sussex County fire companies. they got it in the Indian River School District. That's where it currently is now, and it's hot and heavy. Once to 2 times a month, they will meet at a firehouse or a location, and they'll do some light training. Like they might do some vehicle extrication stuff, or they might do some ropes and knots, or they might do some hose handling or stuff like that, trying to get these kids hooked and ready for the next step when they get older to join and be a part of the service.
President Pepper and then Commissioner or County Administrator.
Once we approve this and write you a check, I see no reason why we wouldn't approve it. But when would it start?
So we're actually in the starting pages pretty now. We're actually past that. The job description is live, so we can get new members. Once they apply, we'll go through the application process, and they'll be out. They'll be out on the streets.
Okay, so when would you come back and report to us as to what the success rate is?
Whenever you want me to. You call me, I'll come.
Like a time period?
I can do.
Or when you come in to ask for next year's?
Well, we can do quarterly reports.
There you go, he heard you.
Yeah, well, we'd let you know.
It'd be nice. I mean, I think we would all like
Quarterly would be
some
great.
kind of report. I don't think it'd have to be quarterly, but
Yeah.
6 months, a year, or whatever.
That's-
But I think that'd be nice, and so.
Mr. Pettit-Monge.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. President Pepper asked the question. I'm going to ask a little differently. The request here is for a 3-year commitment. Is that right?
We're hoping. So
Okay.
as of right now, it's like, this is the first year of the program. If it's successful, they would apply again, but they would have to apply in spring already for the next year. So we're hoping it'll be a 3-year program, and then if it's really successful, they could apply for a competitive grant, which would be a lot more funding, and then the match would increase.
Okay, so like on our end, we should probably plan on a 3-year commitment in our budget. Right now, it's not a budgeted item, but it sounds like we're ready to start like now. So the first question is, the 22,133, is that something that you need, like, is that up front? Is it something you bill quarterly on? How do you need the money to come to you?
So it could go either way. So our grant itself is a cost reimbursement grant. At the end of the year, so by August 31st, we have to submit all the documentation for the grant, and that's when the full match needs to be committed. So by August 31st is like your short answer of when that amount would be due. But if you say you contributed that to the Delaware State Fire School now, that could come out quarterly, where they're saying, okay, a portion of your match has been paid towards this grant. Or you could do it in one full payment at, before August 31st. Does that sound correct, John?
Yeah, it's a matter of, we're invoicing every month. So that's where you would invoice, us for any, living allowances, but also any match too that you were contributing to that. So, but like Marcella said, at the end of the year is when it's really going to match up at the end of August.
But when you say you're invoicing the fire school, not the county.
No, they're invoicing, right,
Because that's who you're working for, right?
well, we're granting the money to the fire school.
Okay.
So we're really the support for the fire school. We're the ones that are giving them the money for this program. So our support is to make sure, we help them with any kind of recruiting, but it's really their program to run.
Gotcha.
So Marcella, is the one that's really working with Jeff to make sure that, he has all the support. Especially AmeriCorps is unique because it's members. It's not, it's not a grant where you just get the money and it's there. It's a cost reimbursement plus it's paying for the members' living allowance. And that's really where, the benefit is, because they're not paid, but they work like they are. So it's as Jeff, I think, said earlier, be someone that could, really help support fire companies with outreach.
Okay, so I'm still, I have the floor.
Oh, okay. Well, let's just take the floor when they want to.
Yeah. So is it possible that we design the payment plan, so to speak, because we're like in the middle of a budget year, if Levy Court says, yeah, like, we have to pass a motion and appropriate some money for it, we're on a fiscal year basis, so it starts July 1 in our world. But like, for now, they could appropriate a portion of this. Are your numbers based on more of like a calendar year, or is it a fiscal year?
From September through August.
Okay, all right, so it's like a federal fiscal year or something like that. Okay, so, all right, that's helpful to know, but, so would we be able to come up with devise a method to reimburse quarterly, or you send us a bill quarterly or something like that?
I don't see that being a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Are you relinquishing the floor?
For the moment.
Yeah.
He reserves his time. I just want to try and help you out with the schools rather quickly. A suggestion in the traditional high schools, if you could look at it as a Spanish class type thing where you go Spanish 1, 2, 3, it might incentivize them to inject themselves in it, try it out, and then move up levels and hopefully graduate in a position to go right into the field, if you want to call it that. I think you can do it. Your problem at the tech schools, as you already know, we introduced this type of program, and it failed for a couple reasons. One of them was I didn't think the fire school was completely on board. Getting into their space is what I was told. But, you know, it doesn't matter. Why it really failed was that the technical schools are restricted somewhat. The stereotypical firefighters, they're in the welding and carpentry shops. And their electives are restricted somewhat to that periphery. So the only options were for the sports med and the nursing medical fields to inject into that elective program. And that was what it kind of looked like it doomed the program, the numbers and stuff. Plus, one of the medics kept not showing. So that would be what I would suggest, that you figure out, navigate a path in the polytech field to introduce that elective that they're able to cross over and get to, build on it.
So right now, they did have the National Registry, EMT, and Polytech. They stopped. We're trying to get that reinstated first.
Sure.
St. George's has National Registered EMT. So Polytech wouldn't necessarily do the testing. So it would be like how St. George's does it now. Once they get to the point where they have to test for their practicals, which is the hands-on and then the knowledge test, they come to the fire school and we test them. The idea with having this type of program in the school necessarily wouldn't rely on Polytech paying for teachers for the actual courses. They would come out to the school, take their course, or we could send the Delaware State Fire School instructor to the school as they take their in-book learning for, like, say, Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2, and then their National Registry. So that's the part we're working out. So we already have the instructors. We have probably well over 300 that have different backgrounds in different areas in emergency services. So that's something we're going to try to work out. But the first step that they wanted us to take, they wanted us to get in the middle school levels, get the GEMS program across the state. To see that successful, then they want to move to the next step. But they were very, very excited to do so with this project. And the certifications that they would get, they can take it anywhere in the United States. It's a pro board certification, so it works everywhere. It's not just bounding them to the state. So if they want to take their career elsewhere, they can. It'll open those doors.
Okay, so no more questions. Guys want to continue? I think we have 3 more pages or so to go through.
Yep, I'll be brief. Thank you. So just a couple more slides. This one really outlines Jeff's role. So he'll be the AmeriCorps program director. So he's going to oversee the other fire stations and the AmeriCorps members as well. So his responsibilities will be to include supervising and training the members. So setting up those trainings, making sure that they have time to attend them, and also reviewing their timesheets, so making sure that they're accumulating the hours to get their Siegel Education Award after they fully complete service. So he'll also coordinate with the fire companies for the placement and the duties of these AmeriCorps members. So as Jeff spoke on, different fire stations might have a little bit different roles for our members as well. So we really want them to be volunteer recruiters, but they could also be trained as a volunteer firefighter and carry out that role. So you might have more who's doing, one that might do more administrative tasks and help out in certain capacities, and others that will be more hands-on, like boots on the ground. So lastly, he will develop and coordinate attendance at public events, fairs, assemblies, where the AmeriCorps members can spread awareness of the Delaware Volunteer Fire Service. Lastly, I really wanted to highlight the member experience because it's a mutually beneficial program. So we really want our members to benefit along with the Delaware State Fire School. So the members will be serving 1,200 hours over the course of a year. So it'll be a little less than that when they start, and they'll receive a living allowance in the amount of $14,265 annually. So they'll be paid on the same payroll or the timing of the Delaware State Fire School. So it could be biweekly or monthly. After successful completion of their service, the members will each receive $4,546 in an AmeriCorps Education Award. So they can put this towards a trade school of their choice. They can put this towards their college funds if they're currently taking classes, or towards student loans. So they can use this in a multitude of ways. Not only that, they're going to gain experience that is, really immeasurable, because they could be a volunteer firefighter, but they're also getting paid for it. Quote unquote, they're not really volunteers because they're getting a living allowance. So this will be beneficial to them. As Jeff was saying, they could be certified. So this could open a world of doors for them. A lot of times AmeriCorps members can be doing a gap year. So maybe they choose to do AmeriCorps because they just graduated high school and they don't know what to do, and they've had an interest in, volunteer firefighting. And they sign up for this program because they also can get paid a little bit. So they could be fresh out of high school, or they could have gotten their college degree, but they don't know what to do, or maybe they want to go on the Park Service or a similar capacity, but they can't get a job anywhere. This is like a great resume builder for them as well. And lastly, like the training and the enrichment that they'll have, like they can put on their resume for anywhere they go in their life. So this will help them, it'll help our community, and it'll really help our volunteer firefighters. Thank you. Thank you for your support, and thank you for listening and taking the time.
County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have the floor again. So going back to the same subject, how do the other two counties pay you? How is it done? Is it a lump sum grant, or is it?
Now, that was already done pre-May. So once they got it awarded the grant, they had already put in their shares.
What do you mean, like they?
To my knowledge.
Do they send you like the total amount in one, and it's like a grant, or do you bill them?
I believe they gave the total amount, but I can confirm that.
Okay, no sense in trying to reinvent the wheel. But if we were to do it that way, we would probably need to know like the grant, the cycle that they're on. If they send it to you after the turn of the new fiscal year, like in July, we'd probably need to figure out if we're going to go from now to July, we'd figure out a prorated amount and then a full amount in July, so that we build it into the budget cycle. But if they, a different way, if they get an invoice quarterly or something, maybe we can just follow that model. Whatever they're doing, what probably makes sense for us to do the
I'll
same.
follow up with Warren James in the morning, because that was something that he handled. That, like I said, that was before May. So I'll find out and I'll get you an answer.
Okay, thank you.
So Mike, on that topic, is this something we would build into our annual community service grants along with the other Delaware company?
It could be a grant built into the emergency services like we do with fire companies or something like that. Yep. Yeah. That'd probably be the best way to go.
Sunday, President Pepper and I had the opportunity to go to the county 4-H Achievement Banquet. And one of the things that they press upon us is this year there were 31 members aged 4 to 18 who contributed more than 3,100 hours of volunteer time to the county at minimum wage. you're looking at over $33,000. For those of you who don't know, back in 2021, Auditor Kathy Jennings did a audit of our volunteer fire service in Delaware and estimated that if we had to switch to a paid fire service, it would cost the state almost $256 million. And I guarantee you that our friends at the state would be pushing that cost down on the counties to pay for paid volunteer fire service, for paid firefighters. So the value that we give, Jeff, to you and all the companies that you represent, I think this is a small price to pay, so I'm on board with it.
And look at it this way too, out of the last program they had, one AmeriCorps member that I know of that he actually came out and told me when I was telling him about this program. He's actually a captain with the City of Wilmington Fire Department now, and he was exposed to it by the AmeriCorps program. So these 7 guys or gals that we could get from AmeriCorps could be exposed to the emergency services and could potentially work for you as ALS providers, as paramedics, which I know that you guys are in a dire need for as well.
I can speak to Wilmington, they get paid good money up there.
So,
Any other questions? Commissioner Howe, any questions?
No.
All right, so we need to move this forward to business meeting or to consent agenda?
Yeah, we're going to need to figure out what the motion looks like based on the information Jeff would get back from
How
the.
they want to get paid.
Yeah, but next week.
Push this forward, because last time we said wait till they come back with information. It's been 18 months, so Jeff, when can you get back to us?
tomorrow.
Oh, good.
Good answer.
So if he gets back to us tomorrow, can we have a motion ready for?
For next week, yeah. And maybe put on our new business, is that what you want to do? Okay.
All in favor? Commissioner Howe, you in favor of that? You're muted. Okay. At least 6 of us, anyway. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Thanks for hanging in there.
Yeah.
Jeff, if you're ready to
Just
come
sorry
back
it took
to
us
and ask
18
for
months to get
anything
to this point.
I understand that there are some states that are offering up to $50,000 in property tax assessment reductions for volunteer firefighters, so.
So I can tell you the next thing we're working on, trying to do at the state level, is the payments that we get for transporting patients in an ambulance. Medicaid, if, let's say Camden, I charge $1,000 for an ambulance run. Medicaid pays $60. We're trying to go to get the minimum payment for insurance up to, I think it was like $325 or $350 to try to make a difference, because $60 doesn't even pay for the 2 individuals, the maintenance and all that stuff.
Yeah, gas.
That's the next thing that we're trying to get changed.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Y'all, have a good evening.
Take care.
Any public comment or anybody online that would like to speak to this topic?
No public comments from the folks online. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Howe's mic is not muted anymore.
Commissioner Howe, you okay with everything we've done?
Yes, I was going to say that that electronic woman told me to unmute myself. So that took me time to do it. And by the time I did it, you'd gone on to something else.
Okay, you can
So
mute
my
now.
apologies.
You can mute. Back to you, Mr. President.
All right, there's one remaining thing on this night's agenda, I think. Let's see the second page. Is Planning Services Committee, Commissioner Buxton, turn it over to you, sir.
Come on down, Ms. Keeper. Appreciate you hanging in there.
Yeah, you've learned a lot tonight.
Have. Very exciting. You want me to start?
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. What's in front of you this evening is a draft ordinance that enacts a moratorium on the approval of utility wind energy systems, so utility scale, not individual. A concern was raised that given the recent experience with solar facilities, we might see the same with wind. So I was asked to put a moratorium together It's an 8-month moratorium, gives plenty of time if the issue is resolved prior to next June. The levy court can always rescind it. I would offer that the new zoning ordinance that we've drafted and just went to workshop on actually already combines or includes wind energy systems with utility scale solar. So it's already under the new ordinance, provided that's ultimately adopted. They would be limited only to BG zoning. And we're proposing rather substantial setbacks, which seems to be a par for the course for those sorts of uses. So again, this is a moratorium on wind energy systems, utility scale. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you. First of all, with our enlightenment on mapping that's happened within the last year that extends Kent County well out into the bay, that would be where most wind energy comes from, is offshore, correct?
Offshore is pretty much the only wind energy that would work in Kent County.
So there was a few years ago, I think when Hans was around, we looked at the possibility of wind energy down at the plant, and that was pretty much a big no.
Right.
Why?
Not enough wind is generated. Just based on basic research, because it's not my area of expertise, average wind speed in Kent County ranges from 8 to 10 miles per hour. To get a wind turbine to start producing enough energy, you need at least 13, and to really start making a profit, you need 15, from what I understand. Again, basic research.
And how many wind applications for utility-sized wind farms are in the books right now?
None.
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 Do you see any coming?
I'm not hearing about
Those
any.
statistics, I don't see any coming.
Does not appear entirely marketable.
Okay, so we don't have any applications for nuclear or wave energy generation on the bay. Should we include a moratorium for them as well until you write an ordinance for those? Sorry, I was being facetious.
Thank you.
Yes, you were.
Commissioner Hall.
Well, just to underscore it then, so there are no applications for utility scale wind energy system.
No.
So this is a solution in search of a problem. I'm sorry.
Proactive.
Again,
Proactive.
but the ordinance that we are imminently about to bring forward will. Okay. Thank you.
I'm not in support of the moratorium, and I didn't ask for it to be on the agenda, but I will speak to it briefly. My concern specifically is that this is a moratorium born from a threat specific to a property in the county adjacent or near the air base. No evidence that they can move or do anything regarding that. Are you aware of any existing regulations that could prohibit any sort of, just say there was a wind farm application in an area, let's say over by the Civil Air Terminal, or in that half-mile radius? Would you know of any evidence what could preclude that from occurring there?
It's
Tough
not
question.
out of the realm of possibility that anything near the Air Force Base, or indeed near any airfield, development of wind energy would be prohibited simply because of the size, the height. The same way, and it's a guess based on the Air Force Base, because I know even with solar and solar development of the property you referenced, the Air Force Base would have had to sign off on that because it's clearly in their path.
Right.
If there's say there was a wind application, would it follow the same path as a solar application last year before the ordinances?
As of today, yes.
So there's nothing unique that we know of from a wind farm application. I'm not saying you should know, but I don't know.
It's
like birds and all that kind of stuff that's different than solar.
Bird strikes are certainly a concern when it comes to wind energy, but my understanding is there are ways to try to prevent.
Right.
But it would go if an application showed up in my office tomorrow, we would treat it as a public utility, and it would go through conditional use and public hearing.
All right, I'll leave it at that. Yeah, I just think that we're not in a position where we need to go out. The moratoriums are a heavy-handed approach necessary at times, but we need to use caution when we express them. So I would state that as my concern. Commissioner Mashon, Commissioner Angel, sir.
Well, thank you. I kind of figured it would go this way again. Once again, things are happening. Technology is changing. Innovation is. A computer used to fill a whole basement. We got this now as a computer.
Sure.
So if you can figure out what wind can do with a smaller, doesn't have to be a woo-woo type of whirlybird. It could be a turbine that just swirls, like at Dell Tech right now. And they have other things that are coming forth too that are being tested. So it's way beyond my capabilities, but all I know is we don't have anything on the books, period. And yes, I won't say it's a threat to one property, because I brought this up to Sarah on Friday, was that one of the people that is very well known in the area, solar company's mad at us because of what we did. So if they want to do an experimental and waste money just to try it, they can do it. So why put that out there, have a chance, whether it works or not? The point I'm trying to make is we need to be proactive instead of reactive. Let's not get caught with our pants down again. And if I had a crystal ball for everything that we need to look at, we wouldn't be sitting here. I have to thank the farmer that brought it to me when she heard about it. And I called Ms. Maston, who then we talked to Ms. Hurd, who then we talked to Mr. Voss, and all these people are in favor of it. Same ones that we dealt with solar. So if we're moving it in the right direction to do what's right, that's all I'm saying. We have nothing to contain it. So to me, it's a common sense. To have nothing is not common sense. Just let it happen and then we'll deal with it. That's not the way we should be doing things. Whether people like it or not, it can always be changed at some point when it comes about. So I just rather us be prepared to what happens instead of trying to catch up and stop something and having more people get upset with us because we didn't do anything, or we are doing something at that time because they feel that we're against them. Let's do the right thing. We don't know exactly what's going to happen.
Commissioner Maston.
Thank you, Commissioner Buxton. Sometimes these conversations are very helpful. Just go back a minute, Ms. Kiefer. You indicated the new ordinance that we just passed for the utility solar, where we're prohibiting it from inside, outside the grow zone. It will also cover wind also?
Not the one you just adopted, the one we just took to workshop last week. When we updated the draft to include the new solar regulations, I ended up just combining them with wind energy because they were related.
So it's still under discussion.
It hasn't. I mean, if Levy Court is amenable, it could get to hearing as early as December.
Okay.
If that's what Levy Court would like.
Right now, what Commissioner Angel is saying is still true. We're really not protected.
Whether
or not we could ever have wind or not, or whether or not we need 15 whatevers for it to be successful here. Right now, if something were to come in, we're not covered at all currently. It could take the same path as we just went through the last year with solar, correct?
It would be a conditional use site plan for a public utility,
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Sweeney.
So, obviously I'm opposed to the moratorium, but to speak to your crystal ball, I'm involved now in Senator Hansen's energy committee that meets on Fridays. And one of the things that they brought up that is being tested right now that we weren't aware of when we put the solar ordinance in is that South Korea is testing low-height crops under solar panels, and we've now told all the farmers that they can't plant anything underneath the solar panels because of the ordinance. And they can't even produce it. So the herds and they could easily have said, okay, raise the solar panels another 10 feet, and we can get a crop, something under there, to harvest crops and make double the money off of their land. Well, we've now told them, no, you can't do it. And this is new research that's being done in South Korea right now. So I get it. I get that you want to be proactive, but we don't want to be proactive to block something that possibly has good intentions later.
Commissioner Pepper.
In response to that, when research develops something that can be done like that along those lines, then we can go back and change the ordinance. No one says we can't. So, I mean, it's not, it's fluid, it can be changed. So, I mean, but right now, they don't exist, so.
So I'll weigh in rather quickly. Yes to what Commissioner Pepper said. So while I appreciate the technology and hope, and I'm optimistic that something like that can occur and does occur, you're fluid enough to make that adjustment when you need to. What's different about this, I think, is there are no state mandates that are out there pushing for wind solar that is viable. It just isn't. Like there was with solar. And I spoke to the utility company and asked them, is there anything on the radar? And the answer is no. So that's another reason why. As far as being proactive, we are proactive. Sarah took it upon herself to include wind in these changes that are pending that we've been hoping for it to come along for a long time. And they're right at your doorstep. Go ahead and adopt them in December. And then you don't need to send a message again about a moratorium. That's a logical play. At a minimum, I would offer this. Since you mentioned that some of the typical players, and I say that, correctly, not mean-spirited, are in favor of this, I'm in favor of tabling this and allowing them to have an understanding that we're not in favor of this, and can we come back to a committee where they can present themselves and say why? Because clearly they're not here today. And I did talk to one or two of them who see no need for this. But honestly, I didn't talk to all of them. But if that's not the case, then I just don't see the need. This is a reaction to one person threatening us, and that's ridiculous.
Well, it's not one, it's two, anyway.
It's the same farm.
It's the
and
same.
There's no way that the utility company coming from, it's a professional organization. They're not going to burn good money being mad at us. It doesn't make sense.
But the way the world is today, Bucky, I wouldn't bet my house on that.
If we didn't have a pending zoning change coming in December, there might be some merit to it, but we've got one right there on the horizon. You can put it on the agenda right away.
Well, to go back to that committee, it was held 2 in 1 day. There wasn't more than 6, 8 people that showed up for that. So not a lot of people know about it still. So just about the committee,
the workshops were not well attended.
Yeah, but they're well designed. These things are going to pass. The right people that would oppose it were there. The ones that are going to be hung up, the constituents, are going to be in favor of it.
Well, at the same time, we still have nothing in place if something would slide in. Period.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you. I just think there's not a need.
And it could be retracted at any time. If this passes and it takes care of it, then we don't need the moratorium. I'm just saying until it gets passed. That's all we need to do is be proactive, and we don't know what's going to happen. And I just for everybody's edification, I watched a great program this weekend on solar with the big whirly-bird ones. They had 300 of them out in the ocean that they supply to 1 million people, 1 million households. So, I mean, it's coming. So the new jobs and technology that's coming with it. It's going to take something because the ocean waters are very corrosive to the electrodes of that, so they're going to have to keep up with it. It's costly. Everybody thought their electric would go down. everybody in the area that these houses were being provided with, electric bills went up. So you can't believe what you're being told.
When is the next committee meeting? 1st of November?
November 1st.
Make a motion that we move this to the next committee meeting so that we can have a better conversation with those folks out there that may be in support of it. All right, seeing none. Anyone else for discussion before we call a vote to move this forward? All right, call a vote to move this forward. Those in favor, put your hand up.
Move it forward to when?
To a, what is this, public hearing?
It would have to be introduced, and then it would be on the public hearing schedule.
So whatever it is.
You need to hear from Hal, too, if he's on.
Well, no one put their hand up to move it forward.
Well, I'm not understanding what you're asking to move forward to. Move it forward for
Introduction.
introduction.
Move it forward, right.
Okay, yeah.
Well, that's,
So you've made two
I
motions.
made a motion that died, it appeared, because nobody showed supportive hands or a second, to table this.
Yeah, I was not, yeah, absolutely.
I made a motion to table this, and I say a motion, you're right, a show of hands to table this. Really, is there support to table this until the 1st of November for the purpose of allowing folks who may be in complete favor of this presenting themselves? Because I didn't speak to them, and I wouldn't want to trip over myself. So, all right, so there's not enough there. So then I go back to which is a motion to move this forward for introduction, right? I didn't think that was difficult. So now we've got 3. Commissioner Howe, are you in favor of moving this forward for an introduction, my friend?
I guess so. I was all ready to vote yes with the original motion, but
So we've
I
got,
don't know. Seems like
what's that?
seems like that's reasonable. So yeah,
Yes to move it forward for introduction, correct?
right.
All righty, so that's a 4-3 in favor.
It would be on the December schedule.
It'll be introduced on the next week,
Can be.
25th.
I'm not introducing it. You better put it underneath one of your names.
Any commissioner can introduce anything.
Mr. Angel.
I'll do it.
Commissioner Masson? Okay.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Lori, did you get that? It'll be introduced by Commissioner Maston.
This is somebody listening.
One of the 2 people, Andrew.
What in the world are you knuckleheads doing? That's what it said. I made it up.
Sounded plausible.
Are we done? Is there a?
Public comments?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Any public comments on the latest conversation topic? None here. Mark?
No comments from online.
All righty.
All right, we are adjourned.
There we go.
Yes.
If anybody's interested in the FOPs for the fried oysters and chicken salad, November 18th, let me know. Get your tickets.
What is it?
The FOP, they're having their fundraiser for
Yeah. When is it? Oh, the what-
November 18th.
18th. I'll be out town. I'll be out town.
I'll go.
Just a
They
letter.
endorsed me. I
Yeah,
better
it's
go.
been forwarded.
They didn't have a choice, but they endorsed me.
There was no amount in it.
Don't forget the county, the